really held off some shoppers, and then of course they hit the stores, and you had a lot of last-minute deals. You had that extra shopping day as well, but we mentioned to you yesterday, and this added a little momentum to what we saw in this final week. Uri's back with us to talk a little bit about this. We've had some data come out on retail. We don't have exactly the store data yet, but we had these initial surveys. What's your take on what's going on in retail right now?
What I like to do during the season is drive around the malls and see, how many cars are in the parking lots. But that's not the entire story. If you walk around the malls, you'll see tons of people shopping. But it's key to look at, what's in their hands. Do they have shopping bags in their hands? And what I've seen, this past season is there's so many people walking around, but not really buying that much. I think the consumer is still strapped for credit and still worried about future personal income and unemployment.
Well, it's interesting that you're saying that, because I think a lot of us can relate to that. Of course, that anecdote of just that experience in the malls. But one of the things that this survey is saying for the month of December, they see sales up about 2% compared to last year, which Dan pointed out to us yesterday. We were coming through all these bailouts, and we really didn't know what was ahead, and new administration, all of this. Compared to last year at the same time, are we better off, or are we maybe confused about where the economy is headed?
A 2% increase, the margin for error there, 2% over one of the worst years in the last decade in terms of history. I don't think anybody can be impressed with the fact that even if it is up 2%, what does that really mean? In the short term and the medium term, everybody wants to watch these numbers, because if there is a significant uptick, then we can say, hey, the economy is improving. But the reality is 2% doesn't really do much for me. I'm not that impressed.
What would do something for you?
Yeah.
If it was like a 5% gain, what would be that point that you're like, okay, hey, that's actually pretty good?
I think what's more important to watch is unemployment and personal income, and I think those are the key facts and figures. But to your point, if we had seen 5% or something more significant, then you could say, hey, this is definitely an improvement from last year. But again, 5% over one of the worst years in the decade.
Right.
Again, we're still looking at a pretty bleak picture for the consumer.
We need like a 50% gain. And that's a lot of shopping. We can never see that. All right, Uri, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Again, a little bit of an uptick in what we saw for chain store sales in the previous week, and of course over the year as well. Gavin, back over to you.
Jenna, thanks very much indeed. The time is now 7:48 in the morning. Let's check a look at the markets on the quarter. Let's kick off first of all with the US futures list. We'll come to Asia and Europe shortly. But the US futures have been pretty good so far and have all been pretty much up in the green. If we have a look at the board, so far we've got the Dow up 0.29%, the S&P up 0.37%, and the Nasdaq up 0.25%. Moving now into Europe, and the board is all green here too. The FTSE, of course, has been off for 4 days, back from a holiday this morning. That's up to 5440, up 38 points on the day, or a rise of 0.7%. The CAC 40 in Paris, that's up 21 points, or half of 1%. And the DAX strengthening. It really was so quiet for the first couple of hours, hardly flinched, but that's up as well on the day, up 1/5 of 1% and nearing its year-on high. Let's put the focus now onto Asia, and for more detail of what's going on there, we go to Sky News Business Channel's Nadine Blayney in Sydney. Nadine.